Okay, so I've got a question for you. Have you ever really needed a break? We're laughing with her. Have you ever needed a break and it turns out that's really actually hard to do? Like motivating yourself to take that break, to go on that vacation seems like a very daunting thing. You don't want to do it and you don't even know if you can do it. Well, that's been my experience as of late, and I'm going to talk about it. So let's dive into that. Hello, and welcome to ThoughtRaid, a show where we take on thoughts and find better ways of thinking about them. I'm Brandon, and this is Tim. And we're hearing ourselves more than once. And welcome to today's ThoughtRaid. In fact, welcome back. Last week has been an amazing week for me. I just came back from a week-long vacation in Sebastian, Florida, and that was a lot of fun because I got to see a lot of my friends that I have not seen in a very long time that primarily raised me. Most of these friends, they were my babysitters and my parents' friends, but they were also very good to me, and so it was great to see them all again and to reconnect with them. And that's why I want to talk about this whole thing. So this week is Get Naked Monday, where we talk about things that are going on in our personal lives and how we are handling them or have handled them. And so I want to really just dive into the whole topic related to taking a break.
You know, it was interesting you going on vacation because you're kind of a workaholic, especially. Well, I don't know if are you as much a workaholic when you're working a 9-to-5 punch in, punch out job, or is it just when you're doing something that you choose to do on your own?
Probably something that I choose to do on my own. I'm more of a workaholic. Yes.
Yeah, because right before Brandon left last week, he was like, well, we need to make sure this gets done, and I'm going to check in. And I'm like, Brandon, shut your face and go on vacation. You just need to just turn it off.
So hard.
Yeah, well, I guess it is kind of hard, especially when nobody's telling us what to do or when to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I made his parents promise me, because Brandon went to the beach with his parents.
Yep.
And I was like, you guys got to promise me that whenever he brings up ThoughtRaid or doing work, you just like hit him,
smack him on the head,
or just like
whack.
Yeah, just get a spray bottle.
No,
be like Caesar Melange.
Yeah, so that was the start of my vacation, the expectation as I, like, literally, so the second to last ThoughtRaid we did before this one before you and Eric were on, that was, on that same day, we left to go to Florida. Like, I finished that broadcast, and then we were on the street. And so, like, that was kind of how you set me off. It was kind of funny. My parents brought my dog, or their dog, I guess, technically. Mm-hmm. And then you were just like, you said what you said, and I was laughing about it because it's just like, it's not easy. It's not always easy to take a break, especially when you are building your own business, especially when there's a lot of things riding on your shoulders. And that, just because, it is my personal belief that just because there are a lot of things going on that you might need to take care of does not mean that you shouldn't take a break. And this is more than just vacations. Like, vacation is definitely a part of what I want to talk about, but this goes deeper into the every week of your life. Like, people need to take a break. And it's not going to necessarily be what you imagine it to be, but it still is important for just seeing life from a different perspective that's not consumed by constant work.
Well, you know, like, you and I both came from a working background. I say working, an employed background. I
9 to 5 job.
Yeah, well, an hourly job.
Yeah.
Not just 9 to 5.
Retail kind of screws over the 9 to 5 aspect, but still.
Yeah, and, you know, I see on social media all these posts where they are glamorizing, work hard, stay late, keep your nose to the grindstone, and never take time off. And then I see other polarized commentary where it's like, take your vacation, take your break, whatever, because it is kind of a toxic mindset to think, okay, well, I just have to deny myself for this company that I'm borrowing a job from, and if I just kill myself, I can advance. And I think you and I both, now that we're both self-employed, have taken that thought process and put it into this where it's like, okay, well, we don't just clock out and go home because we're at home when we work. And drawing that line of scrimmage between real life and work, it can be really difficult sometimes, especially when our income is based on it.
It's more blurred.
Yeah, but the whole idea of taking a break, at least for me, I always felt really guilty taking a vacation, especially since I was in management, because I felt like I was leaving my staff behind. I felt like everybody was going to have to pick up my slack. I felt like I was hurting my job place that I was responsible for and hurting those people by me not being there. So I always felt guilty when I chilled.
Yeah.
Or if I took a sick day, that was even worse because I'd have to call people in on their days off or whatever.
Yeah. I felt that to some degree when I was, going through my regular jobs, but the biggest position that I ever held before I started ThoughtRaid was assistant manager. Mm-hmm. And by that point, when it came, you're asking, am I more of a workaholic in the context of a 9-to-5 job or doing something that I really enjoy doing? By the end of my time when I was working in the walking company, I really wasn't so much of a workaholic. Don't get me wrong, I loved what I did with the walking company, and I was happy to take on extra hours of work here and there to cover needs or to give me a little bit of extra finances. But at the end of the day, you can ask my former boss. I had no problem also saying, sorry, can't work that schedule. I can't do this extra time. You're going to have to find another person who can pick up the hours. Mm-hmm. And that was a very healthy and important thing to have, because if I didn't have it, then I could be in much hotter water the next time I needed to assert my needs than by regularly asserting. Because that's the thing. If you have a hard time figuring out what do you need, and you don't really assert that coming into a job, like what you're willing to do and not willing to do, they're not going to know your limitations. And so if you don't set any limitations when you first come into a job, and then suddenly you begin to do that, that can be a little bit of a jarring experience for the employer, especially if they've come to rely on you. So it's really good to take some time to know what can I give you? What do you need from me? Because there has to be a give and take in any general job. You can't just say I'm gonna do this, and this, and there's gonna you can't make me, because then that's gonna prevent you from being able to move up in the job. That's gonna prevent you from helping out a sick person who you need someone to come in and genuinely cover their shift. It's not gonna bode well if you just are all about me. But at the same time, if you're constantly gobbling up every single day they offer to you without any sort of rebuttal, and you don't have a boundary with your job, they're not going to recognize what the boundary is, and they're going to continue pushing you past your personal boundaries, which can cause resentment and issues later on. When
you were working your job and you had employees, were you ever annoyed by the fact that somebody would tell you no about when they could or could not come in?
It didn't hit me quite as hard, because again, I was the assistant manager, so if it ever hit anyone hard, it would have been Christy. But otherwise, it didn't really hit me too hard, because I myself had boundaries. So I could recognize when they needed to. Now, there were some situations where it wasn't right, where I've had a few employees that didn't show up, didn't call in, and that was a problem. I need to at least know what's going on. And then if they repetitively did that, well, then at that point, that was frustrating. And then I had to begin, okay, who can replace you?
Well, and that's the thing. I remember, and for those of you who don't know, I used to work for GameStop as a store leader. And every, I guess, August, we would start looking for talent or people to hire for Christmas.
Yeah.
And I always worked in really busy stores, so I knew that I needed a lot of supplemental help between 8 to 16 people.
Yeah.
Because of the people you would hire, a third of them they would fall away. A third of them would suck, and a third of them would be good.
Yeah.
And reliable. And that's honestly how you got your foot in the door at the place, through holiday. That's how I got my foot in the door. I worked on holiday,
Same. I worked GameStop too once in the beginning of my work career.
Yeah, and I remember they would give us training hours for those people, and the people would get trained, and then I would think to myself, okay, all these people that we're training, there's so many that we're just wasting hours on, and we would train, we would give them like 2 or 3 training days at best, and then Black Friday was the big day. Black Friday was a lot of people's first day.
Yes.
It wasn't ideal, but that's how it happened. And then after Black Friday, it would kind of taper off, and then people want to make money.
Oh, yeah.
And so the whole concept was you got hired, if you were the person on the receiving end of that, it's like, great, I have a job. I'm able to go in and work. They're going to work me. And then after Black Friday, I haven't been called in for 3 weeks. What the heck? And then, those people go and find a different job. And then the employers are thinking, okay, well, these people said they want to work. Why aren't they working? And we have hours now, and it's based on the needs of the company instead of the needs of the person. And I think looking at that, you have to have an equal balance. And I'm bringing this back full circle to our agenda, where it's like, okay, well, what's the purpose of what we're doing? What do we need? You said asserting your needs.
Yeah.
It's really blurred, because asserting our needs is working overtime and doing things that most people wouldn't do, because being self-employed is tough.
Yeah.
You have to have different boundaries with yourself and different expectations.
Yeah, and that's the challenging part when you go beyond a regular 9-to-5 job. It's like you don't know when should I be building up something. Like some work weeks may look like, I don't know, 20 hours of work, while other work weeks may look like 60 hours of work, because it's just like until ThoughtRaid gets to a place where we have a solid following and we are making what we need to make financially, I don't know exactly how much work I should be doing in some days. And so until it gets there, I don't want to take a break. I don't want to stop, because I don't know when the breakthrough is going to be, and is ThoughtRaid not where I think it should be? Because is it not yet where I think it should be, because I'm not putting enough work in. And so until I know where that begins and ends, it's like I'm walking through an infinite wasteland where there's no markers anywhere. There's no trees, there's no buildings, there's no, shrubs even.
Man, I was actually thinking about that this morning, because our perspective may be different than some of our viewers, because we're trying to figure this out, not just on what we do, because we do have chips on the table,
Yeah.
But we're trying to be led by God in this.
Yeah.
And, for those of you who don't know, I have my own thing that I do called Break the Meta, and I've done videos, I've done blogs, I've got clients, I've done pro bono work. There's all this stuff that I've done. I've built a website, I've got business cards, there's so much stuff, and it's like, okay, well, like you said, when is it going to start producing? And then this morning I was like, okay, Monday is my administrative day. I'm supposed to wake up, and I'm supposed to plan my week. I'm supposed to pray about, seek guidance and stuff. I was supposed to upload 3 things, or schedule 3 things for Instagram and social media this week. I've got a couple of videos that need to go live. And I was sitting there and I was like, all right, God, what do you want me to do? And he's like, just hang out with me, just pray. And I'm like, dude, no, God, I need to produce stuff. I need to create content. I need to do something to add more value to whatever I'm offering people. That way I can make money, and that way I can help people. I mean, there's a whole, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Software update, go away. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, rationally, if I was at my job, if I was at GameStop again, I would have distro that I'd have to check in. I'd have things to send out. I'd have things to count, people to train, hiring. I mean, there's lots of to-dos that have been produced over a period of time, because GameStop started as a concept at one point.
Yeah.
And people figured it out, through trial and error. They developed a handbook. They developed the need for an HR representative for CPAs. They developed a need for conferences.
And apparently at one point a need for stock.
Yeah, and that was developed over time. And so all the processes that I did at GameStop in my 9 to 5 were qualified by the fact there was a need for those processes, right? So somewhere in that business process, there was the conclusion, okay, well, A, B, and C need to get done in order for this business to work. And now we're trying to figure that out. Like, what actually do we need for this business to work?
What even is A, B, and C?
Right. And if you look through our YouTube history for ThoughtRaid, I think we have something like 140 live streams that we've done. We've had other clips,
More
videos.
than 140.
Yeah, there's lots of people that we talk to, minister to, engage with. We have prayer nights. We have social engagement. There's a lot of stuff that we've done, and it's like, at what point do we know what sticks? When do we know to take a break, and when do we know to keep pushing forward? Because that's a tough thing too, guys. A lot of people get into business for themselves, and they quit because, well, kind of like a farmer, you put a seed in the ground and for months you don't see anything.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how much longer am I going to keep watering and nurturing this before I start to see a sprout?
Yeah.
And it's that weird, ambiguous space in between where it's like, okay, who's going to fall away and who's going to continue? And that's maddening. It is absolutely maddening sometimes.
Yeah. But that doesn't change the fact, though, that eventually you're going to need to take a break. And that's where I hit. Like, I needed to take a break. I didn't want to take a break. I honestly did not want to take a break because, it feels irresponsible when we're not yet where we feel like we need to be to take a break. It's like, what are you doing, Brandon? You're lazy. You're procrastinative. You're whatever, all the things that kind of insult my brain as I'm trying to go down to Florida, especially because of the fact that it's like, in this very place, like it's not just we're not quite where we feel like we need to be yet, but also God's called me specifically into this wilderness too. Like God has specifically called me. If you want to know where I'm currently at right now, He's told me He wants me to focus full-time on ThoughtRaid, and don't stop focusing full-time on ThoughtRaid, and don't look for another job. And don't even apply for unemployment. So so it's like, to take that whole vacation was a step of faith for me because, it's like, that's a whole week that nothing is happening. Scary.
Yeah, it's like, Brandon, what are you doing taking a vacation? You're earning $0. What the heck, man? You need to do more.
You need to do more, exactly is what I'm feeling.
So you're telling me that you're floating around in the ocean when you could be sitting here slaving away in front of a computer, Brandon. What are you doing?
And I was really, we were hitting hard that week up to that point. Like, we had just started, and we'll be having here soon to see Afterthought, where we'll be having some really cool 5 to 10 minute videos about some things we've thought about since the broadcast, so you can enjoy smaller content if you want that. And we were talking about just ideas of growth and stuff of that nature heading up to that point. And it was just like, no, though, I have to waste this whole week. But
is it actually wasted?
It wasn't wasted.
That's the question.
It really wasn't wasted.
A lot of people look at stuff like this, especially if you are focused on a goal, if you are leading a business or a group or trying to create something, you look at rest time as a wasted time. And man, I can't tell you how many times during my job when I took a break, especially if it was like the prime time during GameStop to take a vacation is right before August, because that's when the vacation blackout would happen, where you couldn't take a vacation because, guys, you don't take a vacation in doing retail during the holiday season. It's just, you don't do it.
Just say no.
Yeah, there was a guy that I was working with that got married, and that had to, he had to finagle getting that time off, but it's like, okay, so this is productive time. Time is money. time is money. That I heard that so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, if you waste time, well, you're wasting money. If you want to waste time, waste it when you're off the clock. That whole concept. And I had employees where if I would see them standing around, it's like, I remember my first boss told me, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean. There's always time to be doing something. You always have to be doing something. And man, like that kept me bound up for a long time. I mean, it was a good process to instill, and a good behavior to always be looking for something to do, because if you look back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, people were hardworking. These days, we were just joking about some of these videos that we see on YouTube. Like there was one where it was the IMAX, what was it, the sound effect or whatever?
Yes, it would. But instead of it going down, it just kept going above that.
And it was 60 seconds.
THX.
Yeah, it was just 60 seconds of that, and it had 231,000 views. And it's like, oh my goodness. We live in such an immediate gratification society where hard work is really hard to come by.
Yeah.
And so, it's weird. It's like, you either work really hard and get stuff done and there's a sense of respect there, or you work very little and you do nothing and blame your situation on other people. Or like I've even seen situations where people work very little and have a huge gain from it. I was reading Ecclesiastes this morning, and Ariane picks on me because she's like, you're the only person I know that actually gets inspired by Ecclesiastes. But for those of you who don't know, Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon, and he was very, very wise. He was the wisest man on earth. God gave him that gift, and he was a pretty good king, and he accomplished a lot of stuff. But the whole book of Ecclesiastes is about him talking about what he sees from his perspective of having it all. He had the vineyards, he had the flocks, he had all the concubines, controversial,
all the wisdom too, which ironically he didn't seem to use properly after.
Yeah. Well, we also don't want to conflate having wisdom with having concubines.
No, that's not at all what I'm trying to say.
But he had all that, and he said that it's all vanity and chasing after the wind. And something interesting that he was talking about was he works really hard, but the man who takes over who inherits all of this stuff, is he going to work hard or is he going to be lazy? Either way, we're all from dust to dust. We're all going, and we're just like beasts, according to Solomon. The cow out in the field is going to meet the same end as me.
Yeah.
My body, anyways. And he was talking about hard work, and he said, God's gift to man is his toil. Yeah, and he said that the pleasure of life is nothing more than to eat, drink, be merry, and enjoy the lot that God has given you. Basically, what you do. It's not the result that's as important, but what you do while you're doing it.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's how you worship God, and that's also how you find fulfillment. You don't find fulfillment tomorrow. You don't find it yesterday. You find it in the immediacy of doing what you need to do.
Well, you could see right off the bat what Solomon was trying to convey is that there is an importance to work, and there's other scripture verses that say that if you don't work, you shouldn't eat. Mm-hmm. And that can be misinterpreted as I need to be constantly working, otherwise I should never eat, and that's way too far.
And I think about that verse a lot because my wife is a nurse and she works 3 days a week, 12 hours in the ED. And she was telling me the other day how she came home and she said that her shoe was soaked in somebody's pee.
Ooh.
Like something had happened, and like just she tells me about some of the situations that she deals with, just like talking about her day, and I'm like, my goodness. And there are some times throughout the day where I take a break and I'm like, I leave my cozy little office, I go downstairs and make myself a fresh cup of coffee.
A cozy cup of coffee.
I take my time and make myself a sandwich, and then I might like peruse Facebook, or I might play a game for 15 minutes or whatever. And I feel so guilty about that because I'm choosing what I do throughout the day. There's no instruction manual for me to succeed like there is for her. Like nobody's giving me critical patience. Nobody's demanding anything of me. Everything that I do is based on what I think is right, And I too have a really difficult time taking a break or taking time off. Like last week when you went on vacation, I also took the week off. And I was like, oh, I feel really guilty about this. Because, I mean, my YouTube channel has 28 subscribers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have, depending on the week, between 2 and 5 paying and unpaying clients. And it's, sometimes I think to myself, oh, I'm just looking for stuff to do. I'm creating things for myself to do because, well, I don't work a job and I kind of don't want to get a job. Like that's what's going on in here. But I know that God has directed me to do this.
And that's the thing. It's like there is a stark difference between being lazy and not really accomplishing anything and what God has specifically called you to. And it could look like in the process of getting started in what God has specifically called you to, that you're being lazy. But if he has specifically called you to it, whatever is involved in the process of developing that, if he's not convicting your heart that you should be doing more, and he's not bringing people in your life that's giving you like directions on how you can improve, like he did with me at the end of last month, who can stand up and condemn you for what you're doing? Like, no one should be able to do that because you are doing what God's calling you to do. Like, God called us to broadcast 3 times a week. That was the main thing, that it still has not changed. And it's still the main and only thing that God has specifically called me to do and you to do with this broadcast is to do 3 times a week. Everything else we're doing is extra. And for what God has specifically said, all the work that we put into the quality of our streams, all of the research that we put into it, all of the networking we do, all of the extra videos that we create, none of that is specifically what God has said. It's just the broadcasting 3 times a week. Mm-hmm. And so you could look at where we're at and suggest that if we're not specifically putting in every week 60, 70, 80, however many hours of work you should think we should be doing, that's
failure.
You're a failure. They could suggest that, but that's not, that God has not given us a specific time for how much we should be putting into this. And that's the thing, talking about that video you saw with all those views, which is simply just the sound thing getting louder, and that's gotten over 20,000 views. I've seen that success is not necessarily based on what you're doing. It is depending on what God has decided to bless you through. Where is he bringing you the manna, the bread, the things that what you need for the day?
Well, also, I was talking, I recorded some testimony videos with some people this past weekend, and I was thinking about it. Like the videos that we do and the videos that I record with those people may never have millions of views. And our primary goal, so if you've never watched us before, our primary goal is to teach people how to live in love, how to, first of all, have a relationship with God that's healthy, have a relationship with other people that are healthy, and how to appreciate their own value in a healthy way.
All about,
but also like just navigate life and separate circumstance from value. That's what we do, right? So if 2 people see what we do and their lives are changed because of it, we are a success. I honestly, Brandon, you said, working 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I really think that would be easier.
It would be.
I wish, man, I wish that I had, if somebody had just given me a manual when I started my LLC, Break the Meta LLC, here's your instruction manual, work 80 hours a week, do A, B, C, D, E, and you'll be a success. It's like, no problem, man. I have no problem working 80 hours a week for ThoughtRaid. Great. So here's the equipment you need to buy. Here's when you need to stream. Here's the people you need to talk to. Here's how frequently you need to do it. Here's the way you need to, like, if I had that instruction manual, I'd put 150 hours in. Are there 150 hours? Yeah, I'd put 150 hours in a week if I knew, because I know the value. And it's like, that would make it so much easier for me to take a break, because there's a defined expectation of, okay, well, here's what's expected of you. And that's kind of redundant, but when you're creating your own SMART goals, your own expectations, it's much more difficult to qualify, okay, I'm a success. And when I say difficult, guys, I don't mean difficult like designing those thought processes. It's more difficult just respecting that boundary with yourself. Because I could say, oh, all right, with ThoughtRaid, we have 3 broadcasts a week, which is we broadcast for half an hour to 30 minutes. I'm sorry, same thing, half an hour to an hour. Prior to that, there's an hour of setup time. After that, we do afterthought throughout the week. There's editing, there's engagement with people, there is marketing, there is networking, development of new products. Like we have a lot of stuff coming the way, like merchandise, website, whatever.
I need to get that going, the merchandise. We do have it.
Yeah, but there's also like the research and development process, which takes a lot of time. Like the little ThoughtRaid logo right here. Like, talking about just a name and what colors go into our branding, what fonts and where to put things on the screen, how we're going to use it, that takes a lot of time too that people don't see.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, at what point do we qualify in our minds, okay, you can rest now, you can take a breather, because there's still so much to do and so much stuff. Like there's a lot of thought life we could put into this to develop things and figure stuff out, as you guys might be seeing, especially if you're a parent. I don't know why I'm thinking about that right now, but a lot of you who are watching this, you might be first-time parents, or you might be parents in the future, or you might be in a new relationship, and you don't really know how to do that. You know, you might be in a new job. You might have just started a relationship with Jesus. You might be moving. There's so many new seasons you guys go into, that we all go into, and the water is really muddy. You don't really know where to step. And part of it is just allowing yourself to go through the process. Like think about when you walk through a muddy creek or something, you never know if you're going to step and you're going to step down this deep, or if you're going to step down, it's going to be this deep.
Because it's muddy.
Yeah. And sometimes you step in and you fall because it's a lot deeper than you expected. Then you have to pause and you have to clean yourself up, and you might cut your foot and you have to address that. So I think it's really important to define a boundary of, okay, well, I feel good having gone this far. I need to take a breather, because, we've been working out a lot lately, and you can, but it's not healthy to work out the same muscles rigorously every single day in a row, because you have to let them rest. Like we could push, but if we're just trying to figure stuff out and we don't have a clear directive on where to go, it would just be like spinning our wheels.
Yeah. And there is actual places, like time increments of time set in the Bible for us for rest. And the first and obvious one is the Shabbat, the seventh day. Whether you're Jewish and it's a Saturday, or you're Christian and it's a Sunday, there is a time that God set apart for humanity to take rest, or he also rested. Even though he didn't have to, he still did. He rested on the seventh day. And in the Bible, in the 10 commandments themselves, the most basic, primal, if you will, commandments there ever were, you need to keep the Sabbath day holy. And Jesus goes and says that the Sabbath was not, man was not made for the Sabbath, but the Sabbath was made for man. So every week, we need to take at least one day of a break. And a break means that we are not doing anything we would qualify as work. It doesn't necessarily mean that you don't work on house projects if that's something you enjoy doing. But otherwise, if that's something that does not help you relax or doesn't help you rest, there needs to be at least one day every week that is spent not doing something.
That's the thing, though, man. The more I become an adult, the more I realize there's a lot of stuff that I'm responsible for. I mean, if you in your current season of life think that you have a lot on your plate and you're having difficulty keeping your head above water, just imagine when you get into that relationship, or when you buy a house, or you get a promotion, or you enter into more financial debt than you already are. There's so many things. But, I was talking to a client the other day about boundaries with themselves, and you have to look at it like, we think that time is infinite. We have that idea that we're going to wake up tomorrow. Each of us thinks, okay, I'm definitely waking up tomorrow. Most of us, that's the case. Some of us, that's not the case.
Some of it's more of a question. The older you get, the more of a question it becomes.
Yeah, but you have to look at time like the same way you look at financial resources. If you have $100 in your pocket, you have to think, okay, well, what can I buy today? you know. And unfortunately, some of us always overspend. That's why we have debt, you know. And there are certain debts that I'm told are necessary debt for a lot of people, like a mortgage. Some people have car payments, which are a necessary debt. But other things like having $1,000 on an Express credit card, that's unnecessary debt. Or having, you know, jewelry debt or whatever. But if you start looking at your time as that type of resource, it's like, okay, I have 100 units of resource to spend today. You got to think about which big rocks you're spending that resource on. You know, you got to think about what your priorities are. You know, like our priorities are family, personal health, the relationship with God. Things are, and you start actually separating those into categories, and then you start seeing that, oh wait, there's this other thing that's taking my resource from me, like time. Oh, my neighbors asked me if I could do this, or my family member asked me if I could let their dog out, and you know, you feel compelled to say yes to all of it.
Well, time is another thing that you can get in debt with, though. Like, ironically, and specifically when it comes taking a break, you know, if you know where to find this, please find this for me and show me a link. But I remember reading about this somewhere, that the body keeps track of how much sleep you're not getting that you need, and it compounds on you. There are debts to rest that must be paid.
Yeah, it's funny because we were actually talking about that, and that was actually debunked recently. The idea that you could sleep off your rest debt. There's no such thing.
Oh, well then maybe I'm wrong on that.
But it's a concept that makes sense.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong with that. Well, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't know if it's true. It's just something we were talking about.
Well, at least that's what I learned. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But I do know though that after a while, it does wear on you having no rest. And I do know that it is a biblical concept to need rest, and our body needs sleep. Otherwise, bad stuff happens after a while without sleeping. Like specifically without sleeping, period.
Well, that's a necessity for boundaries, guys. Like,
yeah.
With us specifically, we keep talking about boundaries. With this, when you realize that you've overspent your time, or if like the idea of taking your break creates a lot of frustration in you, or like anxiety, like I can't take a break, it's because you're overspending your resources, man. It's like, okay, well, if I only have 80 units of resource to spend towards ThoughtRaid today, that's all it gets. If you don't have a credit card and you go into a grocery store and you have $100 in your pocket, you can't spend $120. You can only spend $100, and you have to start looking at your time that way when it comes to work as well. And that, honestly, it's so much easier when you just punch a clock, because I remember getting yelled at by my boss saying, do not get overtime. Like, I'm going to write you up if you get overtime, and do not work off the clock. So that, oh, okay, well, I don't want to lose my job, so I guess I'm going home now, you know? But with this, it's like, we have to respect that boundary. It's like,
you still need that boundary.
I'm giving ThoughtRaid 80 units of resource today, and after that, I'm cutting it off without feeling bad. Just like last week, Brandon, you're going to go to the beach, and you are not going to worry about ThoughtRaid because you have 0 ThoughtRaid resources this week. You have 100% Brandon Brown vacation resources this week.
100% Brandon Brown vacation resources. That's an interesting way of putting it. But yeah, no, that also came necessary. So we've got, you know, you're established, you need a day a week, at least a day a week. I would say, I mean, and that's why most jobs give it, you need probably 2 days, because I use one day where I'm not doing anything except what I want to do, but then I'm using another day to get things done that are not work related, such as get groceries, clean the house, go to an appointment or something. Like, I have a separate day to take care of the non-work related responsibilities. So we need those days where we're not constantly dedicating everything to the job. And that's a lot obvious in a job that's already established, and a lot harder with a job that's not yet established. But then after you have your day a week, then there's built into, again, with Jewish culture, there are specific holidays that are built in that are not related to the general Shabbat every week. Shabbat. It's a fun word. Sabbath. And they have holidays. They have Passover. They have then there's like a one particular big holiday every 70 years is the year of Jubilee, where it's like a whole year of rest. And it is also a time where every debt must be canceled unilaterally. Ooh. House debt,
Ooh.
car debt. I know. If you were a slave, you had to be set free.
That's enough to make me want to be Jewish.
Let's go. Yes. Any kind of like land debt, any debt, whatever.
Is that still a thing? Do they still do this?
I don't know how tightly they keep to it.
That'd
they
be
should.
Cool. It's like United States of America mortgage companies. I am Jewish, so you must.
And not only that, in the Jewish law, you were required as a business owner or as some sort of person with any kind of company or power not to put bigger debts on a person because the year of Jubilee was approaching. Like you should not be harder on a person because it's coming. Like you want to still be like you had to be conscientious of what you were willing to put on a person as you approach that year, but don't make it harder than it needs to be. Mm-hmm. So like there was that, and I think every 7 years there was another similar type of like I know specifically every 7 years they needed to give the whole land a rest, like agriculturally. Mm-hmm. So like don't plant anything on that 7th year.
I used to play this game. I think it's Lords of the Realm 2. And you would have these little plots of land. And I remember it annoyed the crap out of me because I wanted to acquire resources. I was trying to conquer lands and whatnot. And I needed to plant wheat in fields to feed all my people. And every 4th year, the land, you couldn't plant on the land because it had to lay fallow so it could regenerate or whatever. I was like, this is dumb, man. Every 4 years, because I didn't plan properly, my people are starving because this land needs to regenerate. But it's like, okay, well, my population is more than my resources allow, so I either need to acquire help with my resources or I need to get rid of some of my population. I remember that just annoyed me because I wanted to have my cake and eat it too. I didn't want to have to let things rest. Which is weird because I acknowledge that in the video game, but in my own life, I was resting way too much. It's like, hello, Tim, pay attention to this lesson. But I remember that annoying me to the point where it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm actually getting this. But it's so true, man. Like employees too. I remember I had really good employees at GameStop. Maybe I was just a good judge of character. I don't know. I mean, I had stinky employees too, but the really good employees, like Dakota, if you're watching, I really appreciate you. Alejandro, Randy, like there's so many people that I worked with, Christian, so many people, Josh, that I worked with that were always willing to come in. Maybe it's because we worked in a video game store and our teams were always like, well, once the teams got established, I would say it was a very enjoyable environment.
Yeah.
So maybe that had something to do with it, but I got very reliant on people saying yes. Ariane actually commented, like, why are people at your job so willing to just come in? Like you call them and they're there in 10 minutes, like they're waiting home. Like, man, I hope Tim calls me in today. But it's like that's their time off. Why are they so willing? And I remember getting some employees that didn't do that. I was like, you piece of crap. Like, just come into work, man. I need this filled, But letting other people rest, I think if you're so hard on yourself, it's really difficult for you to have grace for other people when they need to rest. And then your expectations just get out of whack with what's realistic.
Yeah, but also keep in mind there's things that suffer besides just yourself when you don't have rest. Friendships suffer, family suffers, your mental health suffers. That's going back to yourself. But when it comes to just outside relationships, end up suffering. Like if I didn't have good boundaries set with the walking company that I was working with, I would not have time for my small group, and I would not have been able to have built the relationships that existed within the small group that I go to on Wednesdays. I would not have had as much time to spend with friends. And honestly, I can't take my job nor my money to heaven. I can only take people to heaven, and even then, that's if they're willing. If they're willing to accept Christ.
And if you're not willing, we have drugs for that.
Wait! Wait a minute. No, we do not have drugs for that.
I'm just kidding.
But I would not be able to work on what matters most, which is people. Yes, I would have opportunities to help those that I worked with, but everyone has their own lives, and when you come to work, it's just different. There's different things you have to go through in a work environment than you do in your normal outside of that environment and kind of stuff. So there's a balance. You want to make sure that you have time for other people and for other aspects of your life, and it's not just going straight to the almighty dollar. You cannot serve God and money.
Yeah. Well, Brandon, let me ask you this. After a week of just living up the high life, going to fancy restaurants, dipping your toes in the water, swimming with dolphins, taking pictures, do you feel rested? Do you feel like what was your thought process coming back? Were you like, oh, I have a lot to catch up on, or it was like, okay, I'm ready to get back in the saddle?
Well, I mean, for one, I was super excited to get back because I enjoy what I do. Like, I never stopped enjoying thoughtraid. I've told some people, one of the interesting things that I got to do while I was there is I got to refine my what's the word? If someone were to ask me what thoughtraid is about, I guess you could say sales pitch of thoughtraid to people, I had this really good conversation with one of Uncle Mark's sisters. He's not Aunt Jan and Uncle Mark are not literally blood relatives, but they were people that we stayed with, and they're very close family friends, so they're practically family. So his sister was there, I want to say on Thursday, and because I was there, I was able to sit down, talk to her. She asked me about thoughtraid, and I was able to refine my approach to talk about it. So I was like, hey, so thoughtraid's a talk show, and it's all about thoughts. And how to, take certain thoughts captive, because if you can control your thoughts, you can control your actions, and you can live a better life. And so I was able to refine that on vacation. And I didn't talk about thoughtraid often while I was there, but the most important thing that I got out of this vacation, other than rest, although I got rest, was more so just a chance to think about different things. Like, the conversations that I had with God were not thoughtraid centric most of the time. They were centric on relationships and who God is and things of that nature. So I got perspective while I was out there, and it made me think about, like, some pastors go on sabbaticals, and when they're on sabbaticals, they're just focusing on God and learning more about Him. And it's not always about necessarily rest as it is just to build yourself up. And that's what it was. It was a time of building myself up and resting. So I got a little bit of both. So I do feel refreshed from that time. Not to say that I didn't think about thoughtraid all the way through, because I did periodically. I was just like, but I still was able to get most of my mind off of thoughtraid, which is good. Considering how we're still building thoughtraid and everything, I think it's good that I was able to get even some of that time off of my mind. Yeah. Because that wasn't easy.
Yeah, and when you said that you were going to take a break this week, I was like, okay, well, no problem. I can take up the mantle and just do thoughtraid on my own, or I can have Eric or somebody join me. And then I was like, maybe I should take a break too, because not only have I been doing thoughtraid, but I've also been doing break the meta stuff, and trying to figure this out to the best of my ability. And when I'm not doing it, I'm still doing it. Like, it's always in the back of my mind,
Oh yeah, thoughtraid was haunting my dreams. It actually began haunting my dreams. The week before vacation, I ended up waking up in this quasi-awake state where I swore that I was being recorded sleeping for a broadcast, and I wake up and I'm like, why have I not been awake through this whole broadcast? This is bad broadcasting skills.
There are people on Twitch TV who broadcast themselves asleep.
But I never record myself sleeping. So I was just like, what am I doing? And my job was literally haunting my dreams.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, I took last week off as well, and we accomplished something. By we, me and Ariane, my wife. We accomplished a lot of things that last year we began during COVID. We repainted our porch, which took forever.
Looks nice.
Front and back porch. We got some patio furniture, got a nice Majesty fern, replaced our light fixtures on the porch and the doorbell, and just freshened it the heck up, you know? And we've been able to sit out there and just hang out and relax and have our coffee, you know, in our quiet times.
So nice.
Just watch the sunset again. It's been really cool. And then we were watching Bentley, and I was able to, like, hang out with him. But here's the thing. It's like, okay, I did a couple testimony videos this past weekend, so I worked a little bit. But for the majority of last week, I focused on other things. You know, focused on asking Ariane questions about, like, things that she wanted, just hanging out with her, talking with her, spending more time with God, just, like, changing my focus, because break the meta thought raid, because I know it's all on my shoulders to do something. I know I have a responsibility to do something, and it's not me but Christ in me. I need to change how I said that, because God's doing it. I'm just being obedient.
You're being obedient.
There's a difference there.
Yeah.
But, you know, taking my mind off of that and focusing on other things, there's so many other priorities that are starving. You know, there's so many other plants that were dying in my life, like, you know, taking care of the porch, or, you know, friendships, or like this week Wednesday we're gonna go ride bikes with some friends, and we're having a barbecue that night.
Ooh.
And Thursday we're gonna do something. The next week we're going out of town. It's like, actually, guys, I feel like I'm actually living life now. As strange as that sounds, my life is not GameStop. My life is not life insurance. My life is not Amway. My life is not the Lowe's flooring company. It's not. My life is not just my profession.
And it's not even break the meta or thought raid.
Yeah, and that's the thing to me. It feels weird, because it feels like that stuff should be my life. It's so often in my life coaching, when I talk to people, I ask them what their purpose is, and they say, well, you know, I work here, I do this, and I'm like, it makes me so sad. 90% of the people think that their vocation is their purpose.
No.
And it's because it takes up so much of their energy, their resources, thought life, their ambition, their expectation, whatever. And to think that spending the majority of your time building relationships and nurturing those relationships, that's what life is about. That's what should take up most of your time. And if you're afraid to take a break and focus on those other things, that might be a key indicator that you're overspending resources on that thing, and that you might need to dial back, or just address your priorities. Like, what are your priorities, and which plants in your garden are actually starving?
Well, the reality, whether you are a Christian or not a Christian, I believe there is a God. And I believe that same God wants us to be more reliant on Him than we are on our own ability, because He likens us to sheep. And sheep are...
Have you seen that?
I've seen that recent video. Like, there's a video that's circulating of this sheep, and they take all this time to pull the sheep out of this hole, and the sheep just jumps into another hole down the same hole.
He's like, bong, bong, jumps right in.
And then he settles right into the new one.
And the kid's like, what the heck?
And, like, that's us. That's humanity. Like, that's how God sees us. He sees us as that same sheep. He pulls us out of one hole. We go back to the same hole just slightly down the road. Like, that's such a perfect representation. And I feel like that same God wants us to be dependent on Him to take care of our needs, because that's where we thrive. He also views us as children and wants us to view ourselves in a similar light, because children just unapologetically are. They are who they are. They feel something. Sometimes they're on their best behavior, and, you know, they're a joy to be around. And other times they're a burden because they're crying and they're just upset about the most ridiculous small things. But the reality is, I'm 29. I still have, like, moments where I'm upset over stupid small things, just like a child. And I'm willing to bet that I'm not the only one out there who is an adult who has childlike emotions and stuff on the inside, provided you're not jaded and, you know, like, cut off from your emotions. Like, we all have those desires, those childlike things, and God's inviting us to have them and to express them and to bring them to him and to be reliant on him, that he has the ability to take care of us. And he makes Jesus, when he was on the earth, and I just was reading through this in Matthew, was very pressed to say that he takes care of the birds and the lilies and all the things in the world that don't have the ability to store food for themselves. Like, they have to find their food and get it, and he provides that for them. And of course, there's a life cycle and all that kind of stuff. You can go into the details, but he provides all the things that they need, and they don't do anything for it really other than just exist.
I was sitting on my porch earlier today, and I was seeing these birds flop around in the yard, and just like, how birds do, they're just so like
heads going a mile a minute.
And I was thinking to myself, these birds are kind of freeloading. They didn't pay for this house, this property, and they're just eating all my bugs, just hanging out in my tree. They're not contributing. I thought that about Bentley last week too. We were painting the porch and doing all this stuff, and I'm like, he's just in there just hanging out. Like, Bentley, would you do something? Do the dishes, man. Like, contribute in some way.
Yeah. And yet we end up taking care of that dog, that freeloader, I'm like, and that's, if God takes care of things that don't really have the ability to build a storehouse so they can store up grain for themselves, like a bank account or whatever, like he can take care of that, then how much more can he take care of us with the mental capacity to be able to create banks and, storage places and to save up money for ourselves? Like, of course he can take care of us. And he's in the process of really teaching me that right now by even pushing me to take that vacation that I took when I don't really know where the money is going to come from next. Like, you think I should probably have had a secondary job in the background before I take a vacation because that would be wise, but no. The last thing he specifically told me and had me write down was just focus on building ThoughtRaid, nothing else. Don't even focus on getting money from the government. Just trust me. I'm like, okay, God, here I go. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know if there's a pull-up time or something. I don't even know what I'm going to be doing next when it comes to living arrangements after my lease ends with my apartment. But I do know that God has called me to this, and I'm going to, come hell or high water, do what he tells me to do, even if it doesn't make sense, because I've learned that God's plan A is far greater than anything we could think of, and I don't want plan B. I know God can give me a beautiful plan B. I could right now apply for a job in a jewelry store, and I'd probably be pretty successful at it because I'm used to selling high-end products. But that's not what God's called me to. And he knows how much money I have left, and he knows how much time it's going to take before ThoughtRaid gets to where we think it should be, or wherever it should be. I don't know. And yet he still called me to this, so I'm going to trust that he is going to take care of me one way or another, whether that means that it's going to be through ThoughtRaid or I'll have to find another job later on. I don't know. But I don't need to also avoid taking breaks just because things are not where I think they should be. I am doing what God's called me to do, and I love it. And I know that God gave this to us, and he's partnering with us to help you guys, and I love you guys. I absolutely enjoy every one of you who comes on and asks questions or just listens, or those who have donated, regardless who you are, how invested you are into ThoughtRaid. I'm grateful for you. God has created me to minister to people like you through my life, through examples, by challenging your thoughts and things of that nature. Like, this is a purpose that God has given me, and I can do it through ThoughtRaid. I could do it through other means too, but so far this is something that God's given me that's allowed me to utilize all of my gifts that I know that I have, and I love it.
GIFs.
My GIFs. My GIFs. My GIFTS.
Yeah, well, guys, I guess in closing, one thing that I want to say too is that, well, I mean, it's been established, breaks are okay. Breaks are healthy.
Yes.
It is important to include breaks in your day and include rest in your day.
Yes.
But make sure that you've earned it. make sure that you've done some work. Make sure you're submitted to some kind of authority that gives you an expectation of what is and is not fruitful for your life.
Yeah.
And when I say some kind of authority, if you don't believe in Jesus, you do have personal responsibility in your life. You do have people in your life that you're responsible to. You do have work and things in your life. Like those of you who are watching this, if you're watching this from your PC and you're looking around your desk and in your room and you see 3 or 4 things to take out that are growing mold, you probably don't deserve to rest until you pick that stuff up and you're responsible for or you do your laundry, or you're fine. Like, you have personal responsibilities to take care of. We all do. With your relationships, it's important to be intentional. It's important to ask yourself, okay, well, how am I supposed to be loving? Am I carrying my load, or am I putting my load on somebody else's shoulders? There's no point in taking a break if you're not doing anything from which to take a break. So just be mindful of that too. We're not just saying
we're not just saying take a break and perpetually take a break and never do anything. No, like when it comes to what we're doing with ThoughtRaid, we always have things that we're working on and growing and stuff. So periodically we have to take a break. Even though it may not look like we're doing anything, we're making thumbnails, we're making videos, we're recording things. We are about ready to start a podcast or make this into like a podcast thing. Like, we're always working on things. So make sure that whatever you need to be doing, you are doing. So taking care of the family, the dog, the house, whatever, like, making sure that you're financially stable to take care of whatever bills that you have. Once that is accomplished, don't be afraid to take a break.
Did you ever watch The Office?
I have not. I want to, but I have not.
There's a part in The Office where this new lady takes over the company or whatever, and she's got a really strong personality. And Michael Scott, the regional manager of Dunder Mifflin Paper Company, Scranton branch, is sitting there, and they usually knock off around 5 o'clock, and the lady's sitting in her little conference room working away. She's a true workaholic, and they're afraid to leave because they don't want her to think that they're all lightweights or that they're lazy or whatever. And so Michael finally gets up the courage and goes in there and says, "Hey, I think we're going to take off." And she said, "Well, do you feel like you've done a hard day's work?" And she gave him the opportunity to qualify yes or no. And he's like, "I think so." And she's like, "All right, well, have a nice day." And he was like, "Wait, I actually get to decide that?" I think that's just so interesting to the human process, where we think, okay, well, we need somebody else to approve whether or not what we've done has value. And the issue there is that when we do that, we bear the responsibility of, taking responsibility for our choices. And that's really hard. And I think that's why being self-employed for us and whatever, it's hard to take a break because, that there is insecurity that comes with doing something you've never done before. And also there are times where we're going to take breaks and we're going to fall on our face and we haven't deserved it yet. So, I don't know, just if you haven't seen The Office, it's a great show.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys.
So this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you guys.
Real quick, guys. Guys. No, we shouldn't say that part. But
I'm too white.
No, Brandon, way too soon. What I was going to say is, if you're watching the stream, you'll notice that we have 2 microphones now.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this in podcast format, you may notice that our audio quality has improved. We just want to say thank you. At the bottom left of the screen is a list of our sponsors, people who donate to us on a monthly basis. Thank you so much. This is the first equipment upgrade that we've afforded.
It's so exciting.
And it's very affirming to know that you guys have invested in us so that we can grow and do what we do and improve what we do. So thank you. If you would like to support what we do, you can find us on patreon.com/thoughtraid. It'd be cool. It starts at $1, goes up to like
and guys,
$25.
like we love we put that $1 in there for a purpose. We'd love to, even if just $1 a month, that if we had like 1,000 subscribers all donate $1 a month, we would have $1,000 per month.
Yeah. But either way, that's also a gesture where it's basically saying, hey, we just support you. And that means so much. If you guys also want to just send us messages or pray for us.
That helps a lot too. Encouragement really does also help. If you've enjoyed this, let us know about that. We'd love to know how we've helped you, because that gives us the energy to keep going forward, to knowing that we're making a difference. Some of you have already come and told me that, and it's helped me a lot. And if you do send us encouragement, let us know also if you would like for us to publicize that or not, so we can have like a section that has like testimonials too. Because hopefully we'll be getting our own website soon. We put in an application at a church. They might be able to fund the entire creation of a professional website. So if that becomes the case, I'd love to have a testimonial section. And so if you send us some, let us know if we're able to share that, and to what degree you want us to, like, what's the word? Anonymous?
Anonymous.
How anonymous do you want to be about it?
Yeah. And guys, lastly, two things. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you go to YouTube, if you have YouTube, visit our channel. Just search up ThoughtRaid on YouTube. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you get a notification when we upload stuff or when we host more live streams. But if this is helpful, share it with somebody, because everything that we're telling you guys and everything that we've gotten because people have shared what they have figured out with us, and that's all we're doing. This isn't us. This is stuff that has been poured into us through other people.
Yes.
So if this has helped you, or if you think it could help somebody, spread the word, man. Even if you just share it with 2 other people, if it helps their life, then this is a success for us.
Very much so. Yep. We love you guys, and we're grateful for all the time that you have invested into us, to watch us and to encourage us and to ask us questions and stuff. This is what we enjoy doing, and we love hearing your feedback. So thank you guys. With that said, I want to thank you guys for watching. We broadcast every week on Monday, Friday, and Saturday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you again this Friday at 4 p.m. You guys have a good evening.
I can see far away from where I've been. He says, I see a potential. I see a potential in my eyes. I see a potential. I never lost sight of the reason why you're alive. You're alive.